The NTSB recommendations follow 2 incidents on Southwest airline flights when birds flew into the engine and caused smoke or vapor fog. Ernie Bennett reporting.
Varsity Spirit is starting a professional cheerleading league, promising to pay their athletes. This new league, the Pro Cheer League, is billed as the first professional cheerleading league for athletes 18 and older to give cheerleaders the chance to keep competing after college. Breaking news at townhall.com. A groundbreaking scheduled in Virginia for the rebuilding of one of the nation's oldest black churches. The Juneteenth ceremony will be held at Colonial Williamsburg, a museum that owns the land where the church stood. First Baptist Church of Williamsburg officially established itself in 1776 and was destroyed by a tornado in 1834. Well, just about the time you heard of everything, something like this pops up.
The U.S. government plans to open a fly factory to breed millions of the insects in Texas as part of an effort to keep a flesh-eating parasite from infesting American cattle. Now, the Agriculture Department says the sterile male flies bred at the facility would then be released into the wild. They would mate with females and prevent them from laying the eggs in wounds that become flesh-eating larvae. Jason Walker reporting.
More on these stories at townhall.com.
The following is an America Matters media production. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America Matters Media.
Vote for me, and I'll set you free. It's just another word for nothing left to lose. Over me.
All right, folks, you certainly know what that theme song means by now. That's right, it's time for another episode of America Matters. I'm your host, Leo Zacky, and we've got a great interview for you guys today. I can't wait to share it. We got Clint Griess. He's the executive director of the Free Now Foundation, and you're going to love a lot of, well, everything he has to say. I love Clint. I think he's a great guy. He's become a very, very good friend of mine very quickly. And so I'm excited to share all that with you. But before we get into anything, I want to give a big shout out, hello, welcome, and thank you to everybody out there on 93.7 KPGF as well as AM 1060. And, of course, to everybody out there listening on the Answer Network, the Salem Network, Radio for America, the Kevin Jackson Network, and AUN Television. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us here on America Matters. And also a big thank you to all the folks at those networks that help get this broadcast out to all of you happy listeners. So thank you very much to them. Don't forget to go to America Matters Media's Facebook page or LinkedIn page. Like, subscribe, and follow them, as well as go to the Zacky Radio YouTube and Rumble channels and follow us on, subscribe and follow on Instagram and X as well at Zacky Radio. And don't forget to follow me on those platforms as well at Leo S. Zacky. We got a lot of great clips we'll have for you to easily share with all your friends, so they don't have to sit through a whole episode. You can get the cherry bits, but you know it's best to watch everything because this is where the fun happens. This is where all the details are. You miss all that with the little clips, so stay tuned. We got a lot to do that with you, so let's jump right into what's going on, all right? What if I told you that most Americans are walking around with no idea how much power they actually have? And what if I told you the people in charge, you know, those running our schools, our courts, and yeah, even our healthcare, well, they count on the ignorance to keep you compliant? Would you be surprised? So in today's show, it's not just about policy. It's about liberty. Plain and simple. It's about the very foundation of this country and how quietly over the past 2 generations we've been trained to surrender our rights in exchange for, well, convenience and comfort and safety. But we're not buying that anymore. And today, our guest, Clint Griess, has been on the front lines of this fight since, well, 2020. And when he's in the fight, you better watch out. He's a brilliant man. And when the state of California decided it could lock up healthy people in their homes and force children to take experimental, injections to attend school and call it science, well, guess what? Clint said no. And he organized. And he didn't wait for permission. He didn't start a petition and hope it got somewhere. He brought people together, parents, teachers, dissident lawyers, concerned citizens, right in the belly of the beast. San Francisco. Not exactly MAGA country, folks. But guess what? He did it anyways. Because he knew it was coming. Clint Griess is now the executive director of the Free Now Foundation. And let me tell you, if you ever felt like you're the only one who still believes in the Constitution, still believes in informed consent, still believes that your child belongs to you and you alone, you're going to want to hear every second of what this man has to say. Now look, let's be real. You and I both know something is, well, very, very broken. And our schools are overrun with ideology, and kids can't read or do basic math, but they're certainly fluid in gender theory and white guilt. How about our public health system? Well, it's bought and sold, clearly. The same people who told you to trust the science were changing definitions on the fly and spreading dissent, and guess what? If you refused their jab that they profited off of, well, you were treated like a criminal or a second-class citizen. Oh, and our elected leaders, they're drunk. And not Nancy Pelosi drunk. They're drunk on power, too. Getting rich off the very laws they passed to, quote-unquote, protect us. You know, Clint and I are not here to whine. We're here to fight. And in this episode, I'm going to arm you with something more powerful than outrage. Understanding. Understanding how the system was built. Understanding how they weaponized bureaucracy to crush your rights. Understanding how they trained generations to accept compliance as a virtue. And most importantly, understanding how to break free from it. Because here's the secret. They don't want you to know that they've overplayed their hand. They have built a system that has become so bloated, so arrogant, so dependent on you staying docile that it never prepared for what's coming next. And that's us. That's you. Every single person who's just had enough. So today, we're going to hear Clint's journey from public school teacher to constitutional warrior. We'll dig into the Free Now Foundation's efforts to kill vaccine mandates for students and expose how the education system has become a psychological prison wrapped in rainbows and progressivism. But we're also going to dig deeper into the spiritual rot that made all of this possible. Clint's not afraid to say what most conservatives are thinking. Because when we removed God from public life, everything else, well, fell apart. Authority became confused. The state became the new parent, rules replaced morality, and compliance replaced conscience. If you've ever wondered why things feel so upside down, you're going to hear why, and more importantly, what you can do about it. And in the final part of today's show, Clint's going to drop something real big. A legal tool. I love tools. That's what separates us from the beasts. And one that's hidden in plain sight. You know, that every American used to challenge unlawful government power and reset the balance. Because they're terrified of this information. And that's exactly why we're putting it on the air for you. So stay with us. Coming up, we got Clint Griess joining me to reveal what really happened during the lockdowns and how he's helping parents fight back today and what it's going to take to reclaim our rights in the face of tyranny. And this is definitely a conversation you're not going to want to.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and catch the bus. Text and miss your stop. Wait. Text and be late to work. Sorry, I'm late. Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey.
Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
In northern Nevada, there's a one-of-a-kind home that provides temporary.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now back to the show.
All right, folks, we're back with America Matters. I'm Leo Zacky, and sitting here with me is Clint Griess, and we're so glad to have Clint with us here. We're at an amazing event out here in Palm Desert. This is where people really come together to talk about real freedom. So, Clint, tell us, you're all about pushing just the ability for people to have their rights and be empowered by them. Tell us a little bit about your organization and how you guys are working to help make that a reality.
Well, yeah, we started in 2020 in the face of this lockdown, which was, in my mind, the high water mark of tyranny in my life. I thought we were getting better. I thought we were progressing toward a more open and free and amazing humanity, but instead it was the opposite. We found ourselves under the lockdowns, which meant that me, a healthy person who had not broken the law, was ordered to stay in my home under penalty of fine or imprisonment. That was not okay with me. So I started organizing locally in San Francisco and the Bay Area to find other people who also did not believe the hype and were not gonna sit still about it. And I ended up finding we're a very small minority, but I organized and got people together under one roof, 100, in one case 100 people, and we tried to basically create a movement to stop the lockdowns. And we turned out to be, as I said, in the Bay Area, a very small number of people, but we were really glad to be together. One of those people was a multi-decade citizen lawyer, like someone who studied American law for all these years and was committed to the principles upon which our nation was founded, which is, yes, liberty, freedom, that unless you're harming somebody, you're free to do whatever you want.
That's the idea. At least that's what I thought. You know, it's that live and let live sort of mentality.
Yes.
You do what you want over there. That's fine.
Yeah, and you reap what you sow. So it doesn't.
Of course.
So to be an ethical person who's productive in society and has a good reputation with the people in your community, you're going to do well. You know, there was a time in America when people were more integrated and people had an understanding that we are free and that we all also cohesive and that we work together. So America today has clearly gone very, very far from that, and in parallel with a reduction of our freedoms, you also see a disintegration of that integrity that communities once had, starting with the families, but just the people in your where you live and work.
Well, we've lost that trust in our society. I mean, like, we used to have a high trust society, and we have totally gone away from that. And I think a lot of it has to do with the nuclear family being impacted. I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact that you bring in people to the country that don't assimilate, that don't share the values, that don't respect the country.
Correct.
And then you have a government that takes advantage of the people. And
yes,
unfortunately, the people have become, I guess, not even stagnant. They just kind of lackadaisical in their responsibility to be the watchdogs over the people that are supposed to be the representatives of them.
Yeah. Good times produce
weak men. Weak men produce hard times. Hard times create strong men, and the cycle continues. Where on that scale do you think we are?
We're in the not the best part. We're in the worst part of that cycle.
So are we at the weak men creating the hard times, or are we in the hard times creating strong men?
Well, hopefully we're moving toward hard times creating strong men. But clearly, in my lifetime and maybe the last century, it's affluence has caused people to go soft.
Yeah.
and become dependent and take their foot off the pedal and stop being vigilant of the government. So, a lot of people in your circles and yourself probably already know this, but the founding fathers were well aware that tyrants, both people of a lot of power in terms of whether that be financial power or political power or even like military power. Some men are so rich they have their own militaries or militias, they use physical force to exert their will over others. But also the tyranny of the masses, like just a herd mentality where a big number of majority of people get startled by maybe by the fear of a COVID disease or something like that.
How did we fall into that group think? Because this country used to be full of strong individuals that stood for liberty and stood for rights and freedoms. You hear the old stories of people like Davy Crockett, a man who was 100% patriot, knew the Constitution, became a congressman, winds up fighting and dying at the Alamo. How do we go from men like that to just trust the science?
Trust the science. Well, yeah, the modern era is, we could start that maybe in the late 19th century. You go back to basically the mechanization was the promise of prosperity. So people tied automation and mechanization, and it has worked, as you can see. We live, that's a big part of our abundance. Living is better living through science and technology. So, even your farms, for example, are highly technical, right? And you can produce so much more, 10 times more probably than somebody 150 years ago could produce on a chicken farm.
And we could probably do 10 times more if we didn't have the overburden of government limiting us.
And then even more, yeah, exactly. Well, so the government has gone into all this abundance. Don't you need to be regulated, and don't we need our cut? Basically, they need their cut too. So we went from that because of the mechanization, because of the automation, and because of the sophistication, the complication of all of these technologies. Most Americans, for some reason, have decided that it's not worth their time to try to understand, and that we're powerless. In fact, that's the point at which we're lost, is when the powers that be can get us to believe that we're powerless.
Right.
And as soon as we say we're powerless, then we become powerless.
Right. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I always tell people that the power of one is like such a strong thing, because it takes that first person to stand up and say no, and it inspires people around them to stand up. It's like a nuclear reaction, right? That first atom splits off, and it's just boom, 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 and it grows like that.
That's what I count on. Because at Common Era Law Group, we've developed these educational opportunities online. People can come and take our fundamental course called the Great American Law Series, to once and for all restore that sense of liberty in oneself, if you ever had it. Maybe when you were young and you took a Constitution class or a history class and you learned about these things, and we're a free country, but you've forgotten about it because all of the perverse incentives. You're asking, how did we get here? So in our society, if you look around, there's just endless perverse incentives to try to get everyone to comply, to follow the rules, to be a good boy and a good girl. You follow the rules.
Would you like a donut or a hamburger? There's a French fry component to this?
Yes. Or would you like a fine?
Oh, right. It's the carrot and the stick.
Carrot and sticks. So yeah, basically our legislatures produce many rules and regulations that just basically corral us and keep us into these tight little behavior patterns. And people are raised in that, and they're rewarded, and the whole culture becomes one of compliance. Again, it's like an ethical issue. People consider themselves good people if they follow the rules. And they're bad people if they don't follow the rules. They don't ask themselves, do these rules really work? Are these rules really fair? Do they abridge my natural rights? Which is a very big question. I haven't done anybody harm. Why do I need to follow these rules? And because our culture has made it into an ethical issue, it's self-reinforcing. I call it slave talk, to be honest.
It is. It's like kind of a first grade mentality. Very, very simple. But they've done a really good job of keeping Americans
It's infantile.
Simple. Unfortunately.
They keep us like children. With the daddy state or mom, nanny state, they call it. But it's as long as they're above us. And so what we teach, one of the most fundamental things that every American needs to understand, just this alone, is what we call the order of authority. Like, who says?
Right.
Who says? And in America, the people who wrote our Constitution believed that God was the ultimate authority. So we can talk about how did we get here? By removing God. That's the first thing. Because without God as the ultimate authority, then it's just a bunch of men fighting over who's on top.
Right. I mean, that's literally the one thing that separates us from every other country, is that in our founding document, it says that our rights are inalienable and they're given to us by God, a higher authority, a higher being that is not man, because otherwise all the things that other countries have to fall under is a man-made thing. It's whoever that monarch or that leader or that tyrant is at the time.
Exactly.
There's so many ways that people have just been broken down over the years, and they've been indoctrinated into this thought process. And
through the public school
the public, I'm glad we're
TV and movies.
Well, I mean, look, we can go way down the rabbit hole. You want to talk about Operation Mockingbird,
sure.
And, all these programs that funded by our government, by the people that are so hell-bent and obsessed with power. And the way I look at it is that there's only a small group of people get to be the leaders, right? And the people that are super motivated to get there, they seem to want to do it for all the wrong reasons. I don't think we have any really good, amazing leaders out there. There's some good ones, but I mean, like, wow, truly for the people ones anymore, because the people that go for this are obsessed with power, and they'll stop at nothing to get there. They don't care who they step on
by any means.
And so, the definition for a psychopath is someone who's will achieve whatever goal it is, and it's irrelevant on how they impact the world around them, essentially.
Psychopathy, the way you're describing it, has been normalized. It's all around us. We don't see it because it is so normal. Everyone's out for their own good, right?
Well, what can you do for me?
Yeah, what can you do for me? We're all smart rats trying to get more cheese. And it's really rewarded. You listen to people sit around and talk, they'll tell you all of their amazing reasons for how they decided what they were, how they profited themselves, or how they gamed the system in order to get ahead. And tell me more. I want to learn your little tricks, and I can use your tricks. But there's no principle in that. There's no honor, which is a word that hardly even gets used. If you haven't noticed, it's not even in the vocabulary anymore. And there's no sense of service. I think that's what you're describing. We want leaders who are completely imbued with public service. That's why they do it. That's why they got into it in the beginning. That's what animates all of their decisions, is out of a sense of service to the greater good, and to the community, to the people.
Right. And we've allowed our government to become so bloated with bureaucracy and the opportunities for them to take advantage of the system at hand. That's why you have people like Nancy Pelosi who become so exorbitantly wealthy. I mean, even AOC, her net worth has skyrocketed since she became a congresswoman. And it's not just people on the left, people on the right too. I mean, Dan Crenshaw, another great example of somebody. It's
all of Congress.
Yeah,
I don't know. You can just name them all.
I don't know about Thomas Massey. I like Thomas
Massey's maybe the one exception, but maybe one or two. We have how many? 500 and how many people in Congress?
435.
In House of Representatives, right? And then 100 more senators.
Yeah, so 535.
You got to start with the assumption that they're all corrupt.
You've been listening to part 1 of my discussion with Clint Griess, Executive Director of the Free Now Foundation and the Common Law Group. We'll be right back after a short message from our sponsors. Stay tuned.
Talking to Victor from Precision Diamonds. Victor, I remember you in the old days, Park Lane Mall, a kiosk. It's a lot different now, isn't it?
Man, that was a long time ago. In 1988, we've been blessed that we've been guided, and finally we have bought an amazing building across the street from the convention center. We found a better way to serve you. We call it home. We managed to create amazing energy. And when we say, welcome to the family, boy, we really mean it.
It is a family affair.
Absolutely. And we couldn't have done it without our wonderful customers who believed in us for all of 27 years. So I'm here to really say thanks to all of our wonderful family members who we started as customers, who now we know each other's children's and grandchildren.
All those years ago, a little kiosk in Park Lane Mall. Park Lane Mall's not there anymore, but you are still here.
Yeah, we have solidified our future by buying this beautiful building on Virginia Street. So we're there to serve you.
Thank you, Victor. Precision Diamonds, your local jeweler across from the convention center.
At A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, we've been accomplishing happy feet for over 30 years.
We offer a various range of shoe styles and sizes for both men and women. From all-season shoes and orthotics to work boots and safety shoes, our professional and reliable staff possesses the knowledge to help you find the proper shoes to fit your needs. Hard to fit? Hard to find?
A Proper Fit Footwear is here to give our customers happy feet. We make people aware of potential foot problems as we're sizing their feet, suggesting the right arch support, and guiding them to the proper shoes for their needs.
Stop by A Proper Fit Footwear at 4001 South Virginia Street in the Reno Town Mall today, and allow the owner Mike Jones and our fabulous staff to find the perfect pair of shoes tailored to your specific needs.
A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, the home of happy feet, where comfort and your feet meet.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now back to the show.
And we're back with part 2 of my interview with Clint Griess, Executive Director of the Free Now Foundation and the Common Law Group. Let's roll the tape. And we've allowed our government to become so bloated with bureaucracy and the opportunities for them to take advantage of the system at hand. That's why you have people like Nancy Pelosi who become so exorbitantly wealthy. I mean, even AOC, I mean, her net worth has skyrocketed since she became a congresswoman. And it's not just people on the left, people on the right too. I mean, Dan Crenshaw, another great example of somebody. It's
all of Congress.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, I don't know. You can just name them all.
I don't know about Thomas Massey. I like Thomas Massey.
Massey's maybe the one exception, but yeah, maybe one or two. We have how many? 500 and how many people in Congress?
435.
In House of Representatives, right? And then 100 more senators.
Yeah, so 535.
You got to start with the assumption that they're all corrupt. Washington,
well, a lot of them are eating from the same trough. I mean, this is stuff I saw because when I was part of the California Poultry Federation, I would go to congressmen's office and the USDA and the FDA and the EPA, senators. You know, I met these people. I've been to their office. They don't know anything, and they don't care about you or your business or your family.
No.
But they love being wined and dined. They love being told how special they are. They love the security detail. Make sure you have a fundraiser for them.
Oh yeah, of course.
Always.
They're always running for.
Because unfortunately, they might not agree with you on this one. They're going to vote with the other side. Well, because that's just how it works.
That's just how it is.
We made a deal with them. When we need them for something, they're going to vote with us. That's just how it works.
That's how it works. The best money, the best Congress money can buy was an expression that I heard a while back. The best Congress and money can buy. And okay, so we could go on all day about corrupt politicians. There are plenty of examples, and for many decades, right? But we are a government of for and by the people. So we have to lay the blame, if you will, or the responsibility at the foot of you and me and every other ordinary American going to work every day. Unfortunately, like you said, we've gone weak and people have decided that they're powerless and it's not worth their time or energy to learn about the complexities. The Big Beautiful Bill must be 1,000 pages, I imagine.
I'm not a fan of the Big Beautiful Bill.
No way.
I'm sorry, but what happened to single subject bills? I thought we wanted to keep things simple.
That was super important. That was critical.
And now you're just going to lump it all together and there's a bunch of pork in there.
The Republicans got rid of their speaker over one of the issues.
That.
Single bill, right? And now it's a thing of the past. And the things that we're finding in the Big Beautiful Bill are no good.
Right, like not allowing regulation on AI for 10 years, just allowing it to have this free reign when it's at the cusp of, if not about to supersede human intelligence and capability. I mean, I saw something the other week that said that 51% of internet posting or internet use was done by AI last month. So what's real anymore?
No, it's a brave new world with the AI for sure, and the fact that somebody intentionally slipped that into the bill.
Right, what? Well, who benefits? Cui bono, right? That's always the question that must be asked. Who benefits?
Well, it's not the people.
Of course not.
So again, we could talk about the corruption and all the way at the top and all the famous people And yet we and I continue to remind people that the power, we do have the power. As soon as we shall determine that we will have it, and we will express it, and we will use our power as the people, we have to be united. And that's Project Mockingbird, I think.
Operation Mockingbird.
It's basically color revolutions. Mini color revolutions is how it works, right? To divide and conquer us. Even what's going on in Los Angeles, streets of Los Angeles, a lot of people are talking about, is this organic or
No, I went down there.
Is this manufactured?
Oh, 100% manufactured. And there are definitely a lot of bad actors in there. You know we have cartel people in there. I mean, I literally was down there watching this riot, it's what it is, take place. Because peaceful protests don't have graffiti. I've been to a peaceful protest.
Yeah.
Okay? We protested the Super Bowl during COVID because, you get to go in, but I'm a second-class citizen because I decided on my medical freedom that I don't want to take this experimental drug that they're passing off and changing definitions and changing language for, and saying, I have to take this. I said, screw that. So I went and peacefully protested the Super Bowl. Nobody was attacking anybody. Nobody was graffitiing up the property. Nobody's going after police. Nobody's chanting crazy stuff. But you go here, and there was a young guy, looked like probably his late 20s, early 30s. He came down on his bike. He's got face tattoos, Hispanic, curious about the situation, says he was talking with people, laughing, making friends, all that stuff. Out of nowhere, he gets jumped. They get his feet knocked out, his legs knocked out from under him. They start beating the crap out of him on the ground, kicking him, punching him. His lips cut, his teeth are busted. He's bleeding. They took his phone, they took his wallet. You're telling me this is a peaceful protest? You're telling me this is organic? No, you know that there's bad people in there that are in this for profit. You see Craigslist ads, they're offering $6,500 to $12,500 a week just to be this big tough guy, whatever, and go carry out their will. Professionally printed signs.
On American soil.
It's whether it's done by NGOs or the Chinese Communist Party or other anti-American globalists.
How about CIA?
Even the CIA, trust me, I have a big problem with the CIA. I'm convinced that they killed Kennedy.
Yeah, they're enemies of the American people.
Oh yeah.
So let's
well, who watches the watchers, right? If they're the watchers, right? Who watches them? What?
CIA?
Right. Who controls?
They're basically an independent rogue nation, all unto themselves. And we let them get that way. So back to we the people.
Yeah. Getting back to how we take the power back.
It's an experiment. They even said it. Our founding fathers knew they were creating something that was novel in human history, to invest the sovereignty of the land in the people rather than the government or the royals. It's in the people. And guess what? It's going to take the people to keep it alive, to honor it, to cherish it, and to be vigilant against those who should try to usurp that power. And that's basically what's happened, is that they have usurped the power. It's mostly oligarchs, however you want to call it, super wealthy, super powerful people, bankers, whatever, influential people, utilizing the masses to foment all kinds of divisions, whether it be labor versus capital, whether it be left versus right, whether it be men versus women. The gender wars have been going on since I was a kid, this war of the sexes, it's just, every time you turn around, it's this versus that. And we the people must be united against the tyrants. There's a void of power that the tyrants are always wanting to exploit. And they will endlessly and forever try to first exploit the weakness of the people to dominate them, and then to solidify their domination over the people. And we are at a very late stage of that. Fortunately, America still has this tradition. Fortunately, it's still within our culture somewhat. A remnant of people still understand intimately that we are free, because God created us free. God is the highest authority. The next authority is we the people. Who are we the people? We're God's creation. So we got that going for us. Like, we are made in God's image. So God created us. We're not just a bunch of people. Think very little of themselves and each other. A couple of cells. There's no God. It's just accident of nature, perhaps. Or even if people of faith, they still don't think much of us, of each other. You know what I mean? If you look at the way we treat each other, especially the way we enforce the rules on each other.
Yeah.
The oligarchs, the people, the powers that shouldn't be, love that we enforce the rules on each other.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we are constantly fighting with each other and we're enforcing the rules and the laws on each other, but we're not holding those in power accountable, and there's no consequences for them. It's always a slap on those. You hear all these egregious things that they're doing. Plenty of evidence to back it up.
And we have the evidence. We have the smoking gun.
Yeah. No, we got the gun, we got the bullet, we got the shell case, we got the fingerprints, we got video evidence, we got photographs, signed documents. Don't do it again.
No. Well, I ask people, I say, it's like a little quiz, pop quiz. Name the political, anyone ever in politics has ever gone to jail for any period of time. The highest office you can possibly think of. Knowing that there are dozens and dozens and dozens of criminals
Only
that have gone
in
through,
countries that have coups.
Right here in the United States I'm talking about.
Oh.
The highest office holder, any office holder who's gone to jail for any period of time. Name one.
Maybe a judge. I couldn't tell you his name.
Name one. Are you telling me that none of these folks in any of these administrations in Washington, D.C., or any of the state houses, all these famous people we hear about on TV, all of these intrigues and corruption and all of this, like you said, there's evidence and we're going to prosecute, and a lot of people talk about sealed indictments are just ready to come out, all of this stuff. Name one. Name one.
Can't do it.
It's just parade of personalities over all of my lifetime seen on the nighttime news.
Tired of it, aren't you?
Of this corruption and that, and this person paid to play this scheme, and then on and on and on. And let's go all the way. The biggest scam is the Federal Reserve.
Thank you. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is because you mentioned the bankers earlier, and I was like, I want to bring that up. I'm glad we came back to it. The Federal Reserve. This is, I think, the third or fourth iteration of a central bank in the United States. It's the third iteration. Most people don't know that. Andrew Jackson, first guy to fight that stuff first time around. Tried to kill him. He's on our $20 bill, but he knew that a central bank was the biggest danger to our ability to be a free nation. We used to be a very wealthy nation. We didn't have to have taxes because we made our money off of tariffs, because anytime that people wanted to build something, I hate when people say, oh, well, how are you going to build the roads and how are you going to build the infrastructure? We used to do it with a thing called a bond, and the bond was essentially the will of the people wanted approval, saying, I sign off on this, here's my money, make it so. Same thing for like how we used to pay for wars. It was, you buy a war bond, right? I agree that we should be in this conflict, here's my money.
Yes.
Not like Congress and the president dictate to us, we're going to the Middle East to go blow the crap out of a bunch of brown people. Arbitrarily.
The American Empire was built on the Federal Reserve note, basically. Yeah, and then, of course, after World War II became the world's reserve currency. Mm-hmm. So, what a scam. I got the world's reserve currency, and I can print as much of it as I want.
And I love the relationship.
And pay interest to somebody for the privilege of doing it. A lot of people are getting rich off of war and a lot of other things.
It's amazing because this is, like we said, this is the third iteration, which means we've broken away from it twice. That we, the people, have stood up and we have won this fight. Now, we didn't win the war because they kept coming back.
It's been since 1913, so it's been a while that we've had this. And in the end, people also don't appreciate that the Federal Reserve note, as a financial instrument, is not money. It is a debt instrument. That's really hard for people to get their heads around. And again, when we're talking about fraud, there's usually deception involved, and that's the deception, is that people are using a debt instrument. You know what a debt instrument is? Like a loan, right? An IOU.
That's how
they're using we have agreed to use an IOU as legal tender. So I'm going to give you an IOU, which is basically a debt that somebody gave me. I'm going to pass debt on to you in exchange for real goods and services. This is the biggest scam ever. It's not money. And without sound money, people don't have an incentive to produce.
One of the reasons they killed Kennedy.
Yeah, what about it?
One of the reasons they killed him, because he was starting to produce notes from the U.S. government that were backed by gold.
Right.
And then Nixon took us off that.
And that's part of the Trump mythology today, is that he's somehow going to bring back sound money to America as well. And why people invest that faith in this man, I'm not sure. It's not that he said he's going to do it, and even if he said he's going to do it, we know that part of his strategy is that he says things that he doesn't necessarily intend to fulfill. It's just a negotiation or a sales pitch. But at any rate, what we need is sound money. Because with sound money, you have the proper incentives to encourage people to produce.
So do you believe in like decentralized currency like crypto? You've just heard part 2 of my interview with Clint Griess, Executive Director of the Free Now Foundation and the Common Law Group. We'll return right after a short message from our sponsors. Stay tuned.
We're talking to Victor from Precision Diamonds. Victor, we have talked before about the fact that you started 27 years ago in Park Lane Mall in a little kiosk. You are now in your own building across the street from the convention center. You've had to do something right.
Well, you know, as we like to think that hard work, you like to think that it does pay off, but you get lucky along the way. You worked hard, you pay attention, and you get yourself ready. So hopefully when the right opportunity comes up to buy a beautiful building like we just have, you triple your size, you cut your overhead by half, and now you know that you're more competitive than ever.
Plus, you've had a chance to use all of the things you learned from that little kiosk in Park Lane Mall.
Oh, man, along the way, I'll tell you, as far as writing that lease check every month, boy, there were times that it was really hard to do. You know, so you learn from your landlords, and it was really great feeling to say goodbye to the landlord. This has allowed us to truly become your local jeweler, your personal shopper.
Thank you, Victor. Precision Diamonds, your local jeweler across from the convention center.
Have you been injured in an accident? Trust Adriana Guzman-Freilich at AGF Law, your local personal injury law firm in Reno. At AGF Law, we pride ourselves on being honest, hardworking, and ethical. Let's meet in person to understand your case and fight for your rights. Located near South Virginia and Plum, we're always ready to help. Don't navigate the aftermath of an accident alone. Call Adriana at 775-453-9595 or visit adrianalegal.com. Your recovery is our priority, and we're committed to getting you the justice you deserve.
Can you define the 4 different parts of Medicare? Do you have Medicare prescription drug gap coverage? At Nevada Senior Advisors, we will walk through the different parts of Medicare, including Medicare Advantage, Medicare Supplement, Part D prescription drug plans, to help you determine which option is right for you. Visit nvsenioradvisors.com, call 775-674-2223 to set up an appointment. Nevada Senior Advisors is not affiliated with or endorsed by the federal Medicare program or any other government agency. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now back to the show.
And we're back with the final segment of my awesome interview with Clint Griess, Executive Director of the Free Now Foundation and the Common Law Group. Let's jump right into it. So do you believe in like decentralized currency like crypto? Or you have like a touchy-feely with it? Because I'm kind of touchy-feely with it.
I was at the Bitcoin conference 2 weeks ago in Las Vegas to give it another try. When I first discovered it in 2017, I said, oh, we can make banks obsolete. That's what the people, need to do.
Taking back our power.
And what has happened with Bitcoin is that it has become a speculative asset. So basically people are gambling with it, and it has gone up and up and up. And I would say the one take home from the Bitcoin conference that I took is that at least 80% of the conversations, the speakers, the energy of what was going on around Bitcoin at this particular time in history is all about how to make money off of Bitcoin's rise in value, rather than what it needs to be, which is adoption. The utility of day in day, buy a coffee or buy a house with it. That's when we can make banks obsolete. And I kept reminding people while I was there, like, hey, what are you doing here at this conference? And I say, oh, I'm here to make the banks obsolete. And people we're like, whoa.
I want to get rich quick.
I remember, because even in Satoshi's white paper, it refers to the 2009 bailout as a real crime against the people.
Which it was.
I
mean, look, they took our money and they bailed out their friends, the airlines and the banks. And, well, I thought this was supposed to be a free market society, right? Where you're supposed to have, where failure is an option. Yes. And all that does is, it might create a vacuum in the market, but all it does is allow new innovation and new players to enter that space.
Yeah.
But they didn't allow that to happen.
Too big to fail. Too big to fail was
Too big to rig,
the
too big to
mantra
fail.
that somehow Americans swallowed. I mean, it was enormous, and I've not forgiven the banks for that. And I invite every single American to take out their money from all the big banks, get a local credit union, just anything else. Bitcoin, just don't use the big banks. We are feeding the beast every single day.
I mean, I used to bank with First Republic. Look what happened to them. They went under. And now they're acquired by J.P. Morgan Chase. Not a fan. I hate them. I bank with them. I don't like them as a bank. I don't like them as an institution. I know that
we got to find ways. We got to find alternatives because it's just another cartel. It's a banking cartel, and they will pervert Washington D.C. to pass laws to fortify their interests and to the detriment of the American people. So Americans need to stick together. Need to prioritize the more important things, like financial matters, which are again complicated. Like the stock market's complicated. High frequency trading is another huge.
But it's all done by AI at this point.
AI.
It's not even people making these trades. And even back then, back in the day, I mean, I think the biggest story about the stock market and how it's all fugazi is that the Battle of Waterloo.
Oh, well, yes.
You know about this. Yes. Okay, so it was Lord Rothschild, right? He had one of his people watching, overseeing the battle on the hill. Waterloo's in Belgium, and he comes back and reports. He reports
early,
right? Because they got the money, they got the means, so they get the news a day early, and he fronts like Napoleon had won. He sells off his stocks, moping around. And everybody says, oh crap, he's selling it off. Napoleon must have won. Fear sets in. It drives everything down. So all in this massive sell-off, comes right back around, buys up everything. Yeah. And at the end of the next day, he owns the majority of everything in the stock market. It's bull crap.
Yeah. And the people should not have let it happen. I mean, I understand the primacy of contracts, and so if it was a contractual obligation and you fell for it, in one sense, yes, we the people can't pass laws or we can't interfere in private contracts. But that was an obvious fraud, and people fell for it. And I guess that's another thing, in addition to restoring the sense of liberty in our hearts as the people, we also nowadays need to be vigilant against fraud. AI obviously is making it harder to determine falsity from truth.
The way the media
but not for the first time, right? Because deception is always the element of fraud that makes it worse. But we have to be skeptical, extremely skeptical of everything that we see, everything, and to learn how sophisticated the technology has become. And the spooks and the spies and the provocateurs and all of these schemes that are going on, we have to basically wake up from the dream that everything is an American beautiful pie. There is so much fraud going on. Even your search terms on Google are manipulated, right? Like, nothing is not manipulated.
It's like George Carlin said, you got to be asleep to believe it, because it's a dream.
Because it's a dream. So yeah, Americans need to be vigilant. They need to be wide awake. Vigilant against tyrants using both the government itself, the structures of government, laws, as they put that, rules, regulations, on and on, statutes to control us, but also private. It's about 5G warfare, right? It's coming. It's not nation states. It's every, whether it's a corporation, whether it's a foreign government, institutions, nonprofits. All kinds of people who amass the ability to manipulate others are doing it, and it's all over the place. There's not us versus them. It's not white hats versus black hats. That's simple anymore. It's just warfare going in every direction, and I'm sure there are coalitions of certain bad actors who get together and.
Well, you got the World Economic Forum, the Bilderberg Group.
And when it serves them, they work together, and then suddenly it doesn't serve them, then they have different alliances.
Right, which is, I think they haven't been able to achieve that total success just yet, because as soon as they get close to it, they start fighting for that top spot, because there can only be one at the top. They're greedy.
They eat themselves. They eat each other up. Yeah. But we are the people who are always suffering at the end. And again, America was an experiment. As the experiment's going, currently, the results are we can't do it. The people are just incapable of sustaining the onslaught that the tyrants will have to
They've
take
lost
our
their
power. Morality.
They've lost their education, and
Lost God.
They've lost God. They lost their willingness
Yeah.
because they become too comfortable.
Partly because they're too comfortable. Yeah, and pleasure seeking is obviously the name of the game
Well,
nowadays.
that's all it's about.
Yeah.
It's I call it present hedonism. Live in the moment,
Hedonism.
you live in pleasure.
It's
that
hedonism.
simple. So what can people do, and how can people benefit from working with your organization?
Well, when you go to commonerlaw.com, you see a number of different options that are available to you, and they're all to teach you the law that you need to deal with whatever you're dealing with. So our fundamental course will teach you the basics of American law to restore that sense of freedom, and that's fundamental. This is basic so no longer to be fooled by the story that you have to follow the rules. Because why? Because they're the rules or whatever. To really get back to God-given rights. But then we have another number of different courses if you want to fight back against vaccine mandates. There's one called Liberty Warrior, Rid Your Town of Tyrants, which features one person who was successful in getting police and other leaders in her community to either retire or quit by shining the spotlight on their shenanigans. Because government and all of their friends have for so long operated with impunity, they're actually vulnerable. They kind of like let down their guard because they just get away with everything all the time anyway, and all their buddies are in
It's a big club.
It's a big club.
You ain't in it.
So if it's one person or a handful of people in any town get together and do Freedom of Information Act requests, we learn in that course. We learn about warrants. You know what warrants are, it's in the Constitution, and other means. It's a holistic approach to people who want to hold their government officials accountable and shine the spotlight on them. And what we found is that it doesn't take a lot of sunshine to make them run like cockroaches, because they want it easy. So they'll either retire or they'll go get a job at another town. But at least your town can be free of tyrants.
I've seen that before. Like the former sheriff of Las Vegas after the Route 91 shooting. Now he's over in Maui. And they want to have the 15-minute city there in Lahaina.
Yeah, that was his choice to go there because he was assigned probably. I'm talking about the people holding their accountable officials, government officials accountable, shining the light on them, and not letting them off the hook. And using we do have a variety of tools at our disposal.
Social media, I think, is a great one.
Social media, protests. So yeah, it's a holistic.
Real protests, not riots.
Yeah, real protests where you make noise and assemble
peacefully.
Peacefully, yes. So that's a great course. And then we also have our newest, most popular course right now is teaching people about how to discharge their public debt, based on what I was saying earlier, that their money does not exist. And because of that, you have options about how to discharge your public debt. You don't. So if you want, I'm talking about credit cards, I'm talking about income tax, I'm talking about traffic tickets. Pretty much all the debt in circulation is public debt. And then the U.S. Treasury, by statute, is on the hook for all public debt, but people don't know that. And there are other ways to, so when I say discharge, it's as opposed to pay, because there's no paying. When there's no money, there's no paying. So you don't pay off your credit card. You discharge the debt. And most people don't know that there's a second option. Most people think that if I'm going to pay or discharge my credit card debt, I have to give more Federal Reserve notes. But no, there are other options.
I want to know about them. I think people should absolutely use this tool.
It's a form of law called equity, which is a cousin to common law. It's in the Constitution. It has a history as long as common law has, hundreds of years.
Law.com. Folks, you need to go to commonerlaw.com. You got to get your education, learn more about this. Clint Griess, you are a wealth of knowledge, my friend. I'm really glad we had the time to sit down. There's so much more to discuss, but I'm going to have you back on at some point. Can we do that?
Absolutely.
Okay, we are running a car drive right now to help